Hi, my name is Jessica Monghe, and I'm the host of Journey with Jess. Thank you for being here. This is a mental health podcast. We talk all things mental health and people's mental health journey. Today, we're going to be talking to my sorority sister and good friend, Karen Barahona. And today, she talks about how she grew up as first gen with teen parents and how was that for her navigating the world as the oldest daughter, the oldest child in general. I feel like a lot of us know or have similar stories to Karen, so I feel like this is going to be great. Take your time listening to this. If you need to take breaks, do so. It's a great episode. It's very raw, it's very real, and I'm sure some people can actually relate to this. Without any further ado, welcome to Journey with Jess.
Hi, Karen. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. I'm very good. A lot happier now than, recent years, but good.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. I feel like we have a lot to uncover and dive deep. But first, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Karen Barahona. I am from Brooklyn, New York. My mother is from Guatemala. My father is from Salvador. They both immigrated over here when they were really young. They also had me really young. So yeah, so they were teen parents. So it was really different, basically growing up with them at the same time as I'm also growing up. Anything else I should say?
Is your last name Barahona or Barahona?
Oh, yes, it's Barahona. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I say it more so people can pronounce it better. So I get a lot of Barahunas or Barracudas. I'm like, yep, you got it.
It's not even like that hard to pronounce. It's like it's spelled the way you should pronounce it. Like my last name, like the G, I get it's hard, Monghe, but people are like Monji. I'm like, all right, cool. Yes, I love the last name Barahona. You know that. My grandparents are from Canton de Barahona. So I love that name.
I've actually never been to El Salvador, so I get really excited. Yeah, when you post about it, because I'm just like, for years, I've been asking to go. Now that I'm an adult, I feel like I should just do it.
You should. It's so safe right now. And it's like,
that's the main reason why I never went. It was never safe enough to go.
I understand. It's super understandable why your parents, you said your dad is Salvadoran, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, it's super understandable. Like we had stopped going for like 6 years from like 6th grade to my senior year because it was so bad. But before that we went every year. No, I totally get the fear. Now I was able to bring my boyfriend Golam, and I was like, before in this little canton in our town, I wouldn't have been able to bring him because they would know he's a stranger in like problems.
Yeah.
But it's so safe. Like last time when we went with him, there was like Europeans, Asians, Caribbean folks, all of them with like their surfboards. And I'm like, I love it, but it's also so strange to get used to,
Yeah. I
so
can imagine.
highly recommend. Like if they're going, you have to go,
Yeah, absolutely. That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope, let's see if I can make it happen. I would love to learn about like that side of my culture ultimately, because I'm very separated from it, which is unfortunate, but
but I mean, it's all for good reason, and I understand. But okay, so tell me, like your parents are teen parents and you were the firstborn?
I was, yeah.
Oh shit. So how many siblings do you have?
So I'm actually the only child from my biological parents, so from my biological father. But I do have 3 younger brothers now. My brother Julius, he's completely, we're not related by blood at all, but he's my brother regardless.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then my 2 younger brothers, we are related just through my mother. So, she gave birth to them. But again, my brothers. So I have 3 younger brothers. I am the only girl and I'm the oldest. So that was interesting because I definitely took a large, hand in helping raise them while I was in high school. So it was very different. Like now they're such smart asses. Like I'll look at them like, who raised you? And sometimes they'll be like, you did. I'm like, dang. Right. My bad. I taught you how to be this way.
Jesus, that's like, damn, that's a good comeback. It's true though.
Yeah, right.
How big is your age gap with them?
15 years actually between the both of them, like 15, 16 years.
And how old are you from the second, the first
The
boy?
second oldest, he is, I want to say like 3 or 4 years younger than me. He's
Okay.
22. Third oldest,
Third boy, yeah.
yeah, is 11, and then we have a 9-year-old who's turning 10 in
Oh
October.
shit. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a big age gap. I get that.
yeah,
Our parents, man.
yeah, right.
My brother is 22, the other one is 15, and then the youngest for my mom, she's 5.
Oh
So,
wow,
yeah,
yeah,
so I
that's a
get it.
huge age gap.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I'm not alone. You understand me. How was it growing up with your teen parents?
It was strange. It was difficult. Not for nothing, but like my grandparents were very much also my parents. My grandfather passed away recently. I was in charge of like doing the video memoriam kind of thing. So I was
Yeah.
going through all of our pictures, and you could see us like all together, like young children. We literally, like, I grew up with my uncles and aunts as if
Oh,
they were my
shit.
brothers and sisters.
Damn,
You know,
that's
like we were all
crazy.
under one roof
Oh,
as children, and it's so
wow.
surreal to think about, you know. I guess you don't really pay attention to stuff like that growing up, and then
Yeah.
you grow up and you're like, oh wow, like that was a situation that was very unique to us. I definitely felt like I couldn't really connect with my mom particularly, you know, because she was my mom, but she was also kind of like my sister.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and it was just very hard to kind of find that line where it was like, okay, I have to listen to you because you're technically my mother, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the way we act is very much like sisters.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, so it was really hard because I'm an emotional person in general.
Yeah.
So it gets confusing when that's just who I am and they're not like that, and they're
Mm,
constantly like, well, why are you even emotional for? Like, what's like, you have
oh,
no reason to be emotional. Or, you know, the famous,
yeah.
I'll give you a reason to cry. Like, like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to cry at all. Like, I don't know what's happening.
Like, stop, please.
Yes. Yeah, I remember there were a bunch of instances growing up where I was just like, I felt overwhelmed, and for whatever reason, like I couldn't articulate why I felt overwhelmed,
Mm,
but it would always manifest in like tears. I would get these reactions of like, oh, but why are you feeling this? Like, what's
right.
like, you know, like they would get mad at me for feeling, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm feeling, and you're not helping
Yeah.
me. Like, you're making it worse.
Like, when was the first memory of that happening?
Definitely in elementary school with homework. My family actually apologized in the recent years for this.
Oh,
And I thought it was very nice that they thought to apologize, but you know, it was very much the like coming home from school, not really understanding the work that's in front of me and needing help, and
right.
them trying to help, but not being able to, and not
Yeah.
understanding that I don't understand. And I'm like I'm a child, you know? So
Yeah.
that's definitely one of my earliest memories. I feel like in high school, that's where it got a little more intense because my brothers were born by then. I would make dinner. I would do clothes for 6 people, including the babies, including my own. You know, I would have to be on top of my own schoolwork. Nobody
Yeah.
else in high school is doing your work but you. And I would work on top of that too. I started working out when I
Wow.
was 14. Yeah, so it was just a lot of things on my plate. Like I felt, you know, overwhelmed. Parents, at least in the time, they just don't see it that way, or they don't see like you're not really doing anything, but I'm over here like I shouldn't be doing half of this shit, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
doing a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time I had come home from washing clothes, right? I'm sorry if you can hear my cat. I don't really know what's going
Oh,
on
no,
with
I
him.
can't hear him. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just started crying as soon as I got in. And it was like, I knew I felt overwhelmed, and I knew I felt like I was doing a lot. And I like the only thing I thought to do was just start crying. Like my body just did it. And my mom was really upset already. And
Mm.
she saw me crying, and she was like, why are you crying and that? And I told her, I was like, because I'm so overwhelmed, like whatever. She actually ended up smacking me. And
Oh,
like,
I saw that coming, dude. When you were
yeah,
talking, I was like, I feel like she probably smacked her because my mom would
yeah,
do the
she
same.
did. She
Yeah.
smacked me hard enough to knock my glasses off,
Shit.
but also to like leave me a scratch from my glasses. And I was just
Oh.
like, Well, that didn't help, like
That made
that
it
did
worse.
not
Like,
help. Yeah,
in
that made
what
it
world?
so much
Yeah.
worse. I broke down. That was actually definitely one of the reasons why when I did decide to leave my family, I was 19, right? And
Wow.
we were arguing, and it was the day I decided to leave. She came into my room arguing with me. I don't even remember about what. That's just how it was. We would just fight. She raised her hand to hit me, and I stopped her. One and only time I ever stopped her, and I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm out. Like,
Yeah.
I can't be here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no way that we're gonna be able to build a relationship or anything like that
Right.
if I don't feel safe enough around you, or like, like I can't express myself around you. Like, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So that was like one of the reasons why I really left my family back in 2018, which is crazy. It's been
You were
like 5 years.
young.
I was young. I was
Yeah.
19 years old, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, and it sucked because my younger brother, the 22-year-old, we were getting along very well, and we were finally reaching like middle ground where we can
Yeah.
understand each other
Yeah.
and have conversations. So I felt really bad leaving him. I don't want this to affect you, and it's going to, and you haven't had any of the responsibility that I had,
Right.
and they're going to expect it.
Yep.
And he was not prepared. He was not ready. And I told them years before, I was like, yo, like, all of this responsibility falls on me. He's not going to know how to be on his own at all,
That's
or
true.
he's not going to know how to do anything
Yeah. Be
once I'm
independent.
gone. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. But he also ended up leaving at 19. And
Wow.
yeah,
Because of
so
the
he
same
left
reasons, or?
for different reasons, but still, he ended up leaving. My family didn't talk to me for like a year after I left. They were very upset with me.
Oh, damn.
Very upset. And for my 20th birthday, nobody talked to me. We went to a family dinner and nobody talked to me. I was like, why are we even here? Like, what are we even celebrating? Little by little, they started changing, and then I started changing, and I started realizing, like, holy shit, I've definitely had anxiety this whole time. And I just never felt okay enough to speak on it. A lot of things changed. Like, little by little, I was able to talk to my mother. I was able to open up about certain things, let them know, like, hey, I don't like this. Like, this is not who I am. Like, I get it. This is what you're used to, but I have never got used to it because this, like, it just does not resonate with me.
Right.
And yeah, it took a lot of learning, but we're definitely all in a much better place 5 years after I left.
Yeah.
They did their growing up that they had to on their own, and I had been wanting to go to therapy for years. So the first time I went to therapy was when it was in the 5th grade after my biological father passed away. So I stopped, I think, for insurance reasons, and I was young, so it wasn't really something that I thought I had much control over. And I had been wanting to go back for forever, but I never did until last year.
Oh, wow.
Or earlier this year, right? Yeah, where I was just like, you know what, like, I have to do it. This is something that I need. Like, I feel like I'm falling into like this pit, and I can't really, I'm trying to get out, but I keep slipping, and I really just need more insight. And that's when, I started really paying attention to your page. And
no, thanks.
yeah, shout out to you. And I was just like, you know what, like, take the leap, like, just do it. And I trust you. You came to visit me. You were one of those sisters that came to visit me when I was in South Carolina. So it wasn't, it's not like, we're estranged in our sorority or in life, like I feel like there has been an effort to build a relationship between us, which I really appreciate. Thank you. And yeah, so I was like, you know what, take the leap, do it. What's the worst that can happen? And nothing bad has happened from it. So
good.
yeah.
Yeah. Our stories are kind of the same, but with like also polar opposite differences where like my family did not allow me to work. And my mom never let me set foot in the kitchen to help cook or clean. She would complain, but then when I would ask and like be like, I want to learn how to make pupusas, she'd be like, next time, because you're going to get in the way. Or no, you don't have to clean right now. But then there would be the complaint later. financially, they didn't want me to work because they wanted me to focus on my studies. But I also did help with my siblings growing up. I remember nights where like I'd be up at 3 a.m. because the baby was crying. So
Yeah.
I feel that because my mom was also very much with the emotions. It was like, I'll give you something to cry about, always hitting me and stuff. And I was always like, damn, I want to move out. But I didn't have the financial stability or any finances coming in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I resonate with that a lot because at least in my scenario, I don't know if you talked about it with your therapist, but like growing up in those types of families, although they endured their things in El Salvador, right? They went through their own shit or in Guatemala, right? They were very much raised in an environment where like they couldn't show their feelings. They had to do work and their early probably was hard or whatever, but that doesn't dismiss what we went through. We become very numb here. And it's kind of like, I'm doing all this work, but I can't complain because they had it worse.
Yep.
Not fair. It creates a very dysfunctional family, polarizing relationship with your parents. And it's hard because then you end up having that estrangement or disconnect for a few years with them.
Yeah.
You know, apparently it's very common for toxic families or dysfunctional families and stuff. I think that sucks though, because I see it a lot with the immigrant community. It's sad because it's like they both don't understand each other, right? The parents don't understand your experience and you try to understand theirs and give them grace, but maybe we give them too much grace.
I think because my mom came here when she was 7. So she was really young. She learned English pretty quickly, like within the year, and then that's it.
At that age, yeah.
Yeah, she still speaks Spanish, but it's not like it doesn't come to her as quickly anymore. And you're like, my
Spanish is so good though.
Thank you. I take pride in that. The only reason why I learned Spanish was because of my grandparents. Like I made the effort to speak to them in their language.
That's really good.
Yeah, but that was on me. That was like it wasn't my first language. Like I had to learn it. But a large part is due to my grandparents. And like right now, my youngest brothers, they don't speak Spanish.
Same. They don't.
And I'm just like, how do you like? They don't get mad at you, you know? Like everybody's so lenient about it. Like nobody's gonna be tight that they don't understand, you know?
Yeah, I also feel like it's because they're boys, but you know, that's a different story.
That's a whole different topic, Jessica. I was thinking about that too because I was like, if I was a boy, I'm the oldest. I would have been set. I would have been set.
Fine. Yeah,
I would have been fine. Issues where, like where?
It's always the firstborn girl in the family that she could be the middle child, but it doesn't matter.
She's a girl. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've thought about that a lot growing up because you know a lot of my friends are also from immigrant families as well, and for the most part, a large portion of them are males, and I'm just like, you don't understand like the struggle, like of what it is to be a woman. Experience. Yeah, and they're just like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just like, you won't get it. You don't get it.
Must be nice, but whatever.
Yeah. Basically.
But back to what you were saying about, I think you were talking about your mom, and then I asked about the Spanish thing. Oh, you said your mom came when she was 7.
Oh,
and she learned English really quickly.
Yes. So she had a different experience too, you know, because she did grow up on the country. They actually she lived in Mexico for like a year because they came here. She did have a struggle and she definitely went through it, especially once they got here. You know, my grandfather did what he did, you know, the alcoholic, abusive, you know, machismo, and you know, it's in our culture. It happens. It's very much predominant in stories like ours, really.
Yeah.
So they like that struggle he it carried over basically, you know, and for my grandmother too, like it carried over. It's so strange because she had always wished that none of that would happen to me, but she never spoke to me about any of that.
Oh, interesting. Like, you just figured it out on your own, I'm assuming.
Until it happened to me.
Oh, shit. Okay.
My very first boyfriend was abusive. I remember seeing my grandfather be aggressive towards my grandmother when I was younger. But, you know, I was a kid, so they would hide me away or close the door, basically like try to let me see that. But I
But you
remember
got
it.
snippets, yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, like it's there, it's in my head, I remember it. And it wasn't until I was going through all that that I thought it was normal. I thought this was okay. And then I was just like, "Ah, but this don't feel good." It took a long time for that to kind of click in my head, and then it took even longer. It wasn't until I moved out that my mom finally talked to me about all of that she went
Oh,
through.
wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, if I would have had some of this information earlier,
Yeah.
maybe I could have avoided all of this, you know, but they're so scared to share. Or they just don't want to. Like, I feel like it's a level of anxiety too, you know, like they don't want to be seen as like bad people.
I always saw it in of like, I don't know if ego or pride is the right word, but I always saw it as like they want to seem like everything's okay, everything's perfect, maybe.
Yeah.
But I never saw it in the anxiety way. It could be 100% true too, you know. It's like you're not in control of what's happening, you know,
Yeah,
especially
they
coming from your
just like
grandmother.
who finds out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like she even told me like a big portion of why she didn't want to talk to me about her experiences too was because my father was abusive towards her physically at least once, right? And that's already one too many times. Like that's not, you know, I'm not trying to justify it or whatever, but you know, part of the reason why she didn't want to tell me was because she didn't want me to view my father as anything other than how he was with me. And I was like, yeah, but mom, you have to understand like who he was to me will always be who he was to me. You know, like that's not like if he was a different person to you, it would have been good for me to know that. Eventually I learned, I feel like I learned a lot of these things when I was much younger, but they, like my family could not see that everything that they just came to understand, I already knew or I already understood, you know, because I was just like, all right, guys, like this is ridiculous, you know, like I feel like I had to grow up emotionally way faster than they did. And then once they did, it was like they were catching up, but they didn't realize that they were catching up, you know? And I was just like, this is so interesting because we could have talked about this years ago and I would have understood, but because I was a child, you didn't feel like I would understand.
In our experience and stuff, we had to grow up fast. We were basically parentified. I think that's the right word. And we grew emotional intelligence and maturity very early on. And I don't know if this resonates with you. Parents were actually teen parents. So it's a little bit different. My parents were in their 20s when they had me, but when I would try to communicate with them and like have a conversation with them about something serious, they will respond back as if they were teenagers.
That's so interesting. I guess that's very different because they were teenagers.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so how
I
wouldn't know if they were, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
how about when you were like maybe a little older, maybe like they're already in their mid to late 20s. How old are you? Like in your 13?
Yeah, I was definitely in my teens. I feel like I really did not talk to her about anything, if I'm being honest.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like in those years, I didn't talk to anybody in my family about things. Yeah. And I didn't realize this until recently too, because I went out with my mom. I took her out and I was like, yo, like, you don't really know anything about my experiences with people, do you? And she was just like, no, you never talked to me. I was like, oh, yeah. You know, like that makes sense. I didn't feel comfortable, you know, so I couldn't tell you what her responses would be because I feel like I kept to myself very much for, you know, middle school through high school. So I don't, other than my friends, like I couldn't tell you what their responses would be for certain things because I just did not go to them. I did not speak to them. Yeah.
Who would you go to I know you said your friends, but would you go to your grandparents?
No.
Oh, wow. You really kept it all in, damn.
I really kept it all to myself just because I was like, they're not, well, my grandparents didn't really speak English, or they do, but like, you know, it's very, even now, like my grandma will try to talk to me and I'm like, can you just talk to me in Spanish, please? Like, I'd rather you speak to me in your own language, please.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then, like my aunt too, I don't really think I spoke to her. I really did keep it to myself. or
Wow, holy
like
shit.
between me and my friends. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was hard. Thinking back at it, like that's really a hard thing to do.
For a kid, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No, like,
Yeah.
damn.
But I never felt like safe enough or comfortable enough to be like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. I need your advice. Like
Mm,
I've never felt that way until now.
wow. How did you
Yeah.
figure things out on your own?
Girl, yeah. I'm still trying to figure out how I figured it out. You know what I mean?
Damn.
Like
No,
it
so
was,
it's a survival skill, right? Like,
yeah. And I
yeah.
think that's part of the reason why I'm like super independent now. Like when people try to take care of me, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what is
Yeah.
this?
You're not used
But
to it. Yeah.
I'm not at all because I've really been just trying to like understand the world really through like either my own lens or like the lens of my friends and everything, nothing from like people who have been through experiences and who could probably tell me. Like I just never felt safe with them to
Yeah.
do it.
No,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I mean, it's how you grew up and it's how you kept yourself safe.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on like, can you talk about your experience of like the process of moving out and how you felt afterwards and how that helped your relationship with your parents
Oh
after?
yeah. So I was 19. I had decided to leave, and if I'm being honest, I didn't have anywhere to go.
Mm,
I all I knew was that I could not be there anymore. I could not live with them, and I had to find a way out.
mhm.
So, my boyfriend at the time, his parents actually opened up their house to me. Yeah,
Wow.
which was really nice of them. But ultimately, I felt a little uncomfortable because I was just like, like you guys aren't my family,
Yeah.
and there are just things that like I'm not gonna try to be here and live here when like I'm already not comfortable,
Right.
if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No,
So my
yeah.
aunt and uncle actually, from my dad's brother
Mm.
and his wife, they opened up their home to me. So I ended up staying one night with my ex's parents and then moving to where my aunt and uncle live. And I stayed there for about a year before I moved to Buffalo.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it was a very strange process because they didn't. My mom and my stepfather felt some type of way towards my aunt and uncle only because we were all really close. I was very
Mm.
much like the glue to having like my
No.
father's family mingle with my mother's family.
Mm.
So we were all really close, but they never. Essentially, the issue was that they didn't ask for permission to bring me in to their
Yeah, I
home.
see that.
Yeah,
It's a big thing for at least for Latinos.
for
It's like,
yeah.
how dare you? Like,
Hmm.
bro, you were an unsafe home. Not for
Yeah,
nothing. It's not safe for you.
it's not.
Um,
Yeah.
and
So
if she asked for permission, your mom would have said no. I'm assuming,
exactly. Well, probably. I had
Yeah.
mentioned leaving or moving out, I think when I was like 16, and my mom pushed me into a window, and I was like, okay, I'm not
Yeah.
going. Like I guess
Yeah,
like
like,
I won't leave.
yeah.
um, but yeah, so that was like a huge thing. And then,
Yeah.
just the fact that I left in general, I wanted to go almost every other weekend to see them, mainly to see my brothers. I was still very much doing like parental stuff, but mainly for like school events. So if the
Okay.
boys had something,
Yeah.
they were in like pre-K and kindergarten at this time.
Okay. Little
So if they
babies.
yeah, they were babies.
Oh.
So if they had something like a school event to go to or to like that they were having and I was available, I wouldn't even hesitate. I'd be like, okay, I'll go. So I was still very much like trying to be there and be a part of my brother's lives and be like with the family while not living with them.
Mm.
But it was really hard because like my parents didn't really want to talk to me. They
Yeah.
didn't really want to mingle with me. They knew I was there for my brothers, so it's not like they were gonna turn me away. Because
Mm.
they couldn't be there for certain events. Like I
Okay.
think for one of the birthdays, I ended up going, and the teachers thought I was a mom. I was like, no, no, they're my brothers.
Teen mom.
Yeah, and I was like, no, they're just my brothers, and my mom can't be here, so I'm here. Like at
Mm.
least
So they
one of us
needed
is
you,
here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it was very awkward. Like I said, for my 20th birthday, nobody talked to me. We went to my favorite restaurant and
Oh.
nobody spoke to me. And that's the last time I went to that restaurant too.
Oh,
So
stop.
I'm trying to
Wait, did your brothers
make
not
up for
talk
that.
to you?
I don't even think they were there. It was just
Oh.
like the grown-ups
Oh, yeah.
and
You
nobody
need a
spoke to
redo.
me. I do need a redo.
A redo for the restaurant, yes.
Yeah. It's been 6 years. It's gonna be 6 years this December.
Are you
So
turning 26?
yeah,
You're 97?
I'm 97. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were my age.
No. Wait, what year are you?
95.
Oh,
Yeah, just 2
I can
years.
see why
So.
though. I can see why.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a very much older vibe. But now you know why. My parents were very young. My mom
Yep,
is
yep.
only 42. So it's
Oh, your
very,
mom
like,
is young.
yeah.
How
My
old was she
grandma's
when she had you?
16 turning 17.
Oh, wow. And your grandma's how old?
50 something.
How old was your grandma when she had your mom?
She was really young. She was maybe like 15 or something.
Oh, so you
Right?
broke the generational curse and you're like, no
Oh,
team up for me?
hell yeah. Hell yeah. Everybody thought I was going to be a teen mom. Like
Really?
everybody, bro, everyone expected it. And I was just like, that's not who I am. I didn't
That's
even want to
crazy.
have sex when I was a teenager.
Oh,
Yeah, I was not. So I grew up religious. I grew
okay.
up
Yeah.
Christian.
Mm.
So that also really added to anxiety and shame and like
Mm-hmm.
hiding. That's also another reason why I never told anybody anything, because
Oh, wow.
I'd be looked at a certain way. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
it was just so bad. Even when I felt comfortable and safe enough to tell somebody about what was happening with my first boyfriend, because I met him in church,
Mm.
they told me there's three sides to every story: your side, his side, and the truth. And God knows the truth. And I looked at her and I was like, but why would I lie about this? Like, why would I want this to be something that I have to talk about at all? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Journey with Jess with Karen Barahona. Hope you really liked it. If you have any suggestions for future seasons, like season 3 that's going to be coming up next year, please leave them down below. There's a little link where you can leave suggestions, comments, whatever you'd like. If you like this podcast and this episode, please give a 5-star review. It helps a lot. And if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Comment what you'd like to see next. And appreciate you being here. Make sure to follow me on social media where I give more mental health tips live. Thank you.
Tune in next week for part 2.